What's up, football fans? It's time to talk about the biggest game of the year. It's time for the 2026 Super Bowl. Before we get underway, of course, there was the NFC and AFC Conference Championship games, and here's how we did right over here. Well, only two games to really talk about, of course. Seattle does beat the Rams. We predicted as much. The Rams, it was solid. Overall, both teams showed up. They did what they could do, but Seattle has been showing no signs of slowing down. The great thing, in my opinion, about Seattle is that they don't have just one trick that makes them. They don't have the number one quarterback. They don't have the number one defense. They don't have the best kicker in the league, They don't have just one thing. They are just an all-rounder. I say that this is a positive thing because it means there's no reliance on that. Each member of the team has been coming together as just that, a team, and that brings Seattle up. Seattle works fundamentally on all fronts, on both sides of the football, on special teams, on defense, on offense, on every part, run game, the passing game, everything. They are solid on every part, and anything that needs tweaking, they make those adjustments lickety-split. I think the Seahawks are the greatest example of just an all-rounder great team, especially this year. Now, we move on to the AFC game. Now, this one. I argued this in the Rams-Panthers game. I've argued it all season long. Stop pretending and acting like field goals are a negative thing. That game goes completely different if Denver takes the points instead of going for it on fourth. Would have been a tie game. And who on God's green earth, playing a football game, decides, we're up by one possession. We could go up by two possessions and choose not to do that. Because that's what that field goal was. 10 points is two possessions. They chose not to do that against the New England Patriots defense, which, by the way, I'm not a Patriots guy. You all know this. But a lot of credit has to be done on that insane defense because the offense is not putting up 25 average points a game or anything like that. While the offense is getting it done and doing a decent job, they're not exactly a juggernaut. Their defense is stepping up to win them football games because their offense is not a 28, 32-point scoring type of offense. So the defense steps up and keeps the numbers down so that May and his offense are able to do what they do without worry, without that stress level, without all that tension on their shoulders. And it seemingly works. Now, granted, of course, the snow that happened in the later part of the game, of course, affected everyone's ability to play, especially the passing game on both sides of the ball. Of course, the field was very slick and plenty of missed field goal attempts and stuff like that. But that early kick, that early going for it on 4th and 1 at 7-0, I said the moment they didn't go for the points, I said to my brother and I were watching the game, along with my parents and stuff, and I just said that's the game. That 3 points is going to make the difference. And lo and behold, it did. Because after that, New England didn't score. I mean, they scored after that, of course, to make it 10 points. The same 10 points that Denver could have had. But then Denver chooses not to score for the rest of the game. Like, it would have went to overtime. Or the teams would have played different. Once again, just a very strange game. The weather, of course, was a factor. But I'm still sitting here thinking, all right, conference championship, and this is what you showed up with? This is the attitude you brought? It's no good for going for field goals at the 55 and 56 yard attempts when you weren't willing to take the points at the 30 yards. So why not go for it then? You seem to have no problem turning over the ball for when there was easy points left on the board. So what I can't stand nowadays, a lot of teams are doing this, is they are not using their kicker. They're going for it on anywhere from 4th and 4. Like, we're not talking 4th and 1 and 4th and inches. And we're not talking a tie game. We are talking early games. 5 years ago, nobody went for it on 4th down in the first half of any game. That was a shocker. That was what are they doing? And I think the shock of actually going for it screwed up the defense, and that's why once in a while it did work 5 years ago. But now, it's almost predictable. It's like they just want to, we have 4 downs, not just 3. It's early. You're up. Field goals are not poison. Field goals are not bad. Field goals would have made that game a hell of a lot different. So, the Patriots are once again in the Super Bowl. And I will say, just before we move over to who I'm going to pick, kudos to them for getting there. Though I think the defense deserves about 85% of that credit for getting them there, because their offense is not a high-scoring offense at all season long, and into the playoffs. And they have had some strokes of luck with, of course, Denver not being able to play Knicks, which would have been a factor, I believe. I believe that would have made the whole difference. Going for that field goal obviously makes it a tie game, but that Knicks not playing, of course, that's a big boon to New England. Of course, the way C.J. Stroud decided to play in their game, deciding to have the worst game of his career, pretty much on paper, in that game. Kudos to the kudos to the Patriots there, and just having a very easy schedule to get to the big game or to get to the playoffs in the first place. But you can't deny, as much as I'm not a New England Patriots guy, you can't deny that they still needed to win those games. Though the way might have been paved, they still need to walk it. And as I said, defense leading, that's not a bad thing. So definitely kudos. The New England Patriots defense deserves a lot of the credit, a lot of the praise, and they certainly do deserve, the players on that defense do deserve to be there. But yeah, let's move over to the actual talk about the Super Bowl. And so with 170 wins and 113 losses and 1 tie to end off this year, will this number increase to 171 wins or 114 losses? Well, there's one game left, the big one, the Super Bowl itself, and to no one's big surprise, I'm going with the NFC. I think the NFC is far stronger than the AFC overall on paper, and their teams did prove that. There was a lot of injured teams, though. A lot of weather, and a lot of injuries on both sides of the AFC and the NFC going into the playoffs this year. More so than I remember in the last few previous years. But we are going with Seattle. To no one's big shocker. Seattle is the far superior team on paper. You can make the argument that the New England Patriots defense is a better overall defense than the Seahawks. Sure, I'll grant that to you. But the offensive capability of the Seahawks versus that defense versus the offensive capability of the Patriots over the Seahawks difference, that's where the margin lies. That's where the margins will matter. And I'm still not convinced, as I said, watching New England play all through these playoffs, and yes, being given little, as I said, the road was paved right in front of them. The red carpet was rolled out for a lot of these games, and yet there was no domination. There was no 30-0. There was none of that. Meanwhile, Seattle, when they fought an injured San Francisco team, 41 anybody? And therein lies my point, is that while the two defenses, while this game will probably not be incredibly high scoring, there's no reason for me to believe that Seattle can't put up a solid 20 to 24 points against the Patriots defense by the end of the game. Whereas, as far as New England goes, I would find it very, depending on, once again, hopefully the refs just let them play. I hate controversy in a Super Bowl game, of all games, of course. We all do. But would find it very strange to see New England even get more than 15 points against the Seattle Seahawks defense. And that's going to be the difference. It's not going to be that New England can't play. It's not going to be that they won't score points. And it's not going to be that the Seattle offense is going to have their work cut out for them to get those points. But I don't see this going like it did with Denver. I don't see it going like the way it went with Houston and stuff. Sam Darnold, like, I've got so much more confidence in those margins of error on the Seahawks side than the Patriots. And assuming that nothing changes and none of this pass interference calls that are clearly, I'm not saying they aren't penalties, but they are holding calls, not pass interference. Could someone please check these refs and tell them the difference between pass interference and holding? Then we might have something. Then we might have a game. We might have a game. I still think this is going to be a game. And I think that nobody should rest on their laurels when it comes to the Super Bowl especially. No matter what the halftime score is. We've seen it before. But overall, there's no reason for me to... If somebody could come up with a reason that the Patriots, other than the conspiracies, which I'm there for them, why would you ever think that the Patriots would beat the Seahawks? Would you have picked them in the regular season this year? Would you have picked the Patriots to beat the Seahawks and not called it an upset? That's all I'm saying. So why is it any different now? Said New England should have had a far more dominating, easy time in their last two games, in their divisional and conference game, and they certainly didn't look like it. You know, the score reflects that. So, on the flip side, as I said, Seattle, much more impressive showing. And it's all going to come down to that, I think. So, will this be 171 wins to close off the 2025-2026 season for yours truly? We'll have to find out this weekend. So, hopefully you all have your plans, around the Super Bowl. Are you the type of person who goes to Super Bowl parties where people talk through the game and watch the commercials? Are you the type of person who goes to Super Bowl parties with people who don't even watch football all year long, but it's an excuse to get together and drink? Or are you going to not bother with watching the game at all? Or neither of these teams interest you? Or are you just going to play it casually? Stay at home, have a few drinks, maybe order a pizza. Me personally, I'm doing a little bit of an in-between. Get together with the family. Most of us are football fans and are interested in actually watching the game. We all love to cook, so we make a couple of more special dishes, and then we call it. That's all it is. We don't really do much of a party because we actually want to hear the game and we want to watch the game. And that's our thing. So, whatever way you choose to watch the Super Bowl this year, I hope you enjoy it. No matter what the end result of the game is, no matter what how you decide to watch the game or avoid it altogether, I just hope it's a good day. No matter how you choose to spend it. So, that's the Super Bowl prediction, the last one for 2026. We will be seeing you again this year. In the fall. In autumn, we'll be back with the next season of the NFL. Picks and predictions. Looking forward to it. Hope you guys are as well. And unlikely to make a final video, by the way. We already know what my prediction is. It will not change. Go Seahawks. And we'll just have to wait and see. And probably next year we'll talk about whether I got this game right or wrong. That's how it'll probably open. I'll either be really salty opening up the 2026-2027 season of picks and predictions, depending on the result, or I'll be opening it up delighted. So we'll have to wait and see what happens this time and go from there. So anyways, guys, it's been quite a season. This record is not as good as I wanted it to be. The ratio, of course, is not nearly what I needed it to be. And as far as my pool, I finished bottom of the middle. So I wasn't making any headway. My one big thing this year, of course, was getting a perfect week. and winning my entry fee back due to winning the week. So that was pretty cool. I've never had a perfect week as long as I've been watching football and picking games for as long as since I was a teenager. So my first perfect week, so that was pretty cool for this season. So, but anyways, hopefully you guys have some more fond memories of this season as well. Feel free to share them. Like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you all back here next season. Have a good one, everyone. Sign out.